Hi guys, welcome to my review of Once Upon a Time, or should I say Once Upon a Musical, episode 620, The Song in Your Heart. Now before I get started with this, I'm just going to point out that obviously this is a few days after the episode has aired that I'm filming this. I will get to why that is in a minute, but since the episode has aired, obviously there has been a lot going on in terms of Once Upon a Time, the announcements of season 7 which is going ahead and cast members who are departing, and there's a lot been going on. I'm not going to address any of that in this video. This video is purely going to concentrate on the musical episode and how I felt about that, and I'm going to leave everything else to another time. Because quite frankly, with the musical episode itself, I have enough feelings to contend with, never mind starting talking about season 7 at this point. Okay, so I left this video a few days to film for a couple of reasons. One, I was busy at work, and when I was coming home from work I was out some of the nights and whatever, but I also left it a while to film because quite honestly I didn't know if I was going to be able to film this review without crying. And I know that that sounds like, if you don't watch Once Upon a Time, I'm not entirely sure why you're here, but if you're not as invested in the show as I am, or you know, I guess if you don't get involved in like fictional characters or TV storylines or whatever to the degree that I do, then that probably sounds utterly ridiculous. But in all seriousness, I didn't think that I was going to be able to do it, because I just, every time I have watched, there are a couple of bits that I can't watch without crying. Like, I've watched The Vows several times and I still can't get through them without bursting into tears, which then just like continues with me sobbing all the way through them singing The Happy Beginning and them dancing after the wedding and all that. Like, just have sobbed every time I've watched it. So the fact that I even actually managed to talk about that without starting to tear up is a positive sign. So I figured like leave it a few days and then like maybe you'll be more emotionally ready to talk about this episode. So to start with, I guess I'll just like talk kind of generally about the idea of a musical episode in general. I loved that idea. I had always really loved that idea, but I know that it was something that there were issues with in terms of how is it going to fit with the actual story of the show, and you know, the ultimate question, was it going to work, or was it going to just be like really cringy and difficult to watch? For me, because I trust the writers, I trust the actors, and I know that they are all very good singers, or well, at least I knew that like Jen and Colin at the very least could sing very well, so I figured like they wouldn't risk doing it if all the cast were like, no thank you, I'm not comfortable with it. I did see tweets from people being like, oh, it's such a cringe, it's not what I wanted for the show and whatever, which is absolutely fair enough. Like, it's not going to be for everybody, but personally for me, I feel like there was an interview with Colin and Jen where he said like, if any show is going to do a musical episode, like, it's going to be Once Upon a Time. Once Upon a Time is a show about fairy tales and magic and hope and joy and, oh, I mean, there's been a lot of not joyful moments, but all of that stuff combined together is just, I feel like, the perfect opportunity for a musical episode. And so I just wanted the songs to be good and for it to fit kind of seamlessly in with the overall storyline of the show, and I feel like actually they did a really lovely job of doing that. So I figured the way that I'm going to handle this review, and actually just as a side note, I haven't actually watched anyone's review of this episode yet, and again I did that deliberately. I've read thousands of tweets about it, but I haven't actually watched. I've got Sandrine's review to watch, I have got Jake and Jostle's live stream to watch, I've got quite a few reviews sitting in my subscription box that I have to go and have a look at, but I didn't want to have a look at any of them until I'd reviewed it myself, because I was like, I would like to not see how anyone else has sort of referenced it or talked about it. I just want it to be like straight from me, and then I'm going to go back and watch the other guys. So I think first what I'm going to do is talk about all of the individual songs, because I love them. I love them so much, and they deserve to all be talked about individually. So I'm going to do that first, and then once I've done that, I am going to talk about the plot of the episode, because obviously we can't forget about that. So obviously in terms of the songs, I was slightly worried about that, because I was like, they have to be really good in order for this to work. So the guys who wrote the songs for this episode, Alan Dacre and Michael Weiner, did the most incredible job with these songs. Please tell me in the comments below if you agree with that, if you felt like the songs were just incredible, because I am totally obsessing over them, but I don't know if that's just me being overly excited, but I felt like they were so well written, they are so catchy, and I just think they did the most perfect job with them. Obviously with them being fans of the show, because Adam and Eddie had said that these guys had approached them and said, look, if you want to do a musical episode, we are fans of the show, we know the show, we love the show, and we'd be totally up for doing it. So that gave them the opportunity to work with people who were already really attached to the show, and so creatively they were going to be kind of on the same page, and I just think it works so well. Before I watched the episode, I'd sworn that I wasn't going to look at anything, but let's be realistic, that was never going to happen. So I did watch Colin's song. I watched Revenge Is Going to Be Mine a lot, before I watched the episode, but I actually was really good, and that's the only song that I watched. I did not watch any of the rest of them because I felt like, right, you've had your little like taste of it. Oh, I just fell in love with it, and I knew after I watched that I was like, I feel good about this. So starting at the beginning of the episode, Snow and Charming song. Oh my god, I love it. It's like, obviously it's like the ultimate cheese. It's total like Disney style cheese ball, adorable rom-com joy. And oh, it was just so cute. I kind of love the idea of like their little boys, like their story just in real life in general just fills my heart with joy, is the fact that they're going to be able to look back at this show and like watch them like falling in love and getting together like on screen and off screen, and then like their little boys, they've had 2 little boys throughout like the process of working on Once Upon a Time, and then I don't know, maybe they'll have more kids, but like that their kids will be able to like watch their mum and dad doing like such an adorable duet. I just love that. I totally overthink these things, don't I? But anyway, I love that. I think one of my favourite moments of the entire episode was Josh's entrance in that song. Like, oh my, I'm going to watch it right now actually, just because, hold on, I've got my laptop here. So with this one, I kind of loved like when she woke up and like the birds there, it's like so classic Snow White, which I really actually love, because I read an interview with Adam and Eddie talking about Jenny playing Snow and saying that, you know, she's just been the most perfect Snow White, and she's reinvented this character as this really like strong kick-ass character that she wasn't necessarily seen as in the Disney film, which is so very true. But I kind of just loved that we had this moment of like her waking up and there's a bird there and she's singing to it, and then like the look of like total bewilderment on her face. So that was great, but like nothing will beat Josh's entrance into this episode, because it was just so perfect. So I'm gonna watch it now. He's so good. Moving on to Regina's song, well, there was like little medley to begin with the dwarf singing and Granny singing and Geppetto and everyone getting involved, which I thought was really lovely. And I loved the little bit with the little cricket, so Archie got his little line. Well, not so much Archie, but you know what I mean. So I thought that that was really good. I really enjoyed that. And then moving on into Lana's big solo number. Oh, I think I tweeted this during the episode, but like, has the word queen ever been more applicable to anybody than Lana Parrilla? That song was so much fun. I really liked that she got that kind of like glam rock kind of thing to do, which was just a ridiculous amount of fun. And she obviously just like, even though she was nervous, because I'd read that Lana was super nervous about doing the singing, but she just like threw herself into it, and it was just an absolute joy. Moving on, we've got Revenge Is Gonna Be Mine, Colin John Hugh. Come on guys, we all know he's one of my favourite human beings, and that is forevermore going to be one of my favourite songs. The fact that he can sing a song that involves the words yo-ho and still be like infinitely hotter than most other human beings says a lot for him. I just thought that was great. I thought it was a great way to kind of work his past story into the kind of musical episode. So obviously like that, like his entire backstory has been about revenge, and so having that as his big solo number was just, it was so much fun. That song is incredibly catchy. For me, that song has like serious Queen vibes. I don't know if anyone agrees with that, let me know in the comments below. I love it. It's probably is it my favourite? No, maybe not. It's one of my favourite songs on the soundtrack. I downloaded the soundtrack, by the way, the day after I watched the episode. I refused to download it before because I knew I'd just listened to it, but I downloaded it that night after I watched the episode, and I've had it on repeat all week. But the 2 songs I have had on repeat the most for very specific reasons are Revenge Is Gonna Be Mine, followed by the next song in the soundtrack, which is Zelina's big solo number, Wicked Always Wins. I did not expect for that to be like potentially my favourite song on the soundtrack, but I adore that song. Bex is incredible. I absolutely adore her. That song is fantastic. I want a stage and for someone to give me a mic and I will just stand there and sing it. I know it off by heart by now because I've had it on repeat like 6,000 times. It's so good. It really, to me, is like one of, out of all of them, it's one of the ones that is the most like big Broadway musical songs, if you know what I mean. I think a lot of the rest of them, they're so good, but they've got like either that slightly like Disney vibe or like poppy vibe or whatever, whereas like that one I just feel like it would be so perfect in a huge big stage show, and Bex just did so well with it. It was so much fun to watch, and again it just like flowed so seamlessly into the storyline that, oh, it was a good one. I kind of love the moment where the evil queen was talking to Rumpel and she was like, come on now, sing, and so he like moves back and clears his throat, and then you're like, Rumpel's not gonna sing, and he said he'd rather gouge his eyes out with a rusty fork, which I was like, perfect. That moment I enjoyed a lot. That was so much fun. I feel like I'm turning into Jane, because in the interviews that Shane Collin did for this, she's like, I feel like all I end up saying when I'm talking about this episode is that it's just so much fun, and that's what I feel like I'm now doing when I'm talking about it. But it was just so joyful to watch. So okay, moving on from that, we then have the kind of battle between the Evil Queen and the Charmings, kind of throwing their songs at each other, which was quite fun. I like that. It's probably the one out of them that I listen to the least, really only because I tend to listen to the two songs individually more than I've listened to them together. But in terms of the actual scene, I thought it was really clever and it worked really nicely and was a nice way of kind of getting to that point where we found out why the music was important to Emma, or why the songs were important to Emma. So I really like that. Next is the one that I have to try really hard not to cry when I talk about, because I'm really struggling to watch it without crying. So yeah, Emma's song. I need to mainly talk about this during when I'm talking about the plot of it, but all I'll say at the moment is that I love it a lot. Jane is incredible. That scene sort of tore my heart to shreds with happiness and sadness all at the same time, and yeah, it's a special song. And then lastly, we have the other one that I have to try not to cry when I talk about, which is A Happy Beginning. And I think that the first time that I listened to it was obviously when I watched the episode, by which point I was in floods of tears and an absolute wreck. So I don't think I properly paid attention to it the first time that I watched it, because by that point I was just like sobbing my eyes out. So the first time that I watched it, I don't think I appreciated just how good it was. And then the next time that I listened to it, I was like, I was on the train and I was like, this is a dangerous game because you could cry on this train. But I love, like, guys, if you're Captain Swan shipper, can we please just take a moment to appreciate the fact that we got a Captain Swan duet? Who would have thought all those years ago when they were in Neverland and they had their first kiss and we all got on the bandwagon, who would have thought that not only would we get to see proposal and wedding, but they would actually get to sing a duet? We are a very, very fortunate fandom. Regardless of what happens next, regardless of what happens like with season 7, which I'm not going to talk about, but regardless of that, we got like a wedding and a duet. So we should be very happy with that. So I love it, it's beautiful, it's such a lovely song. And I think the fact that it like ended with all of their voices together and they all got a little bit to sing in that, and Regina and Zelina together and Henry, and so many feels. So many feels. Okay, so that is me finished talking about the songs. That took a lot longer than I thought that it was going to, but do you know what? I don't care. If this review is half an hour long, I don't care. It's a very special episode, so that's fine.